And I am the other half, Derek Ferguson.
How you doing, Derek? It's end of the year. We made it through the first year of the show.
We made it through the first. This is our sixth, seventh, eighth episode.
This is episode 9, believe it or not.
Wow! And you know what? It seems like we just started this daggone thing, already. It
kind of weirds me out because I was looking at it, and sometimes I feel kind of surprised by it, but at the same time, I feel like we have more episodes just because we've been talking so long about this stuff before we started the show.
Right, yeah, but I mean, 9 episodes, and if I may say so, it is taking off like wildfire already.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've been really enjoying doing it.
Oh yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I have rediscovered things about these movies that we have talked about that, I guess since I've had time to let them percolate in my brain and I've watched them over, I haven't seen them in a while. So I'm rediscovering a lot of things about these movies that we've been talking about, which is always a good thing.
Same here. And I'm learning about movies that I probably would never have given a chance to before, like thanks to your recommendation. So things like Swamp Thing or the original Doctor Strange or Nick Fury.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, same here. I mean, you turned me on to The Crow, which I hadn't seen in like decades. And, I discovered a whole newfound appreciation, for that movie I didn't have before. It's a far better movie than I remember than what it was. And I hope that everybody listening to this, they went out and they saw it for themselves because it's a movie that deserves a wider audience.
Absolutely. Now, today we're talking about interesting choice because this is a movie that I think a lot of people, even if they don't like the character, they like this movie. But you are one of the exceptions, I believe.
I guess you could say that. Actually, it's funny why you would say, because you know what's something? I really don't have a problem with the movie itself. It's a very well done movie with a terrific cast. I love the cast. Mm-hmm. The action sequences are good. The only problem I really say, I guess first you better tell the people, first of all, what movie we're talking about if they don't know already.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, drop the ball on that one. So because it's the end of the year and this is the season of guys in red suits, I decided for my pick to go with one of the most famous comic characters wearing a red suit, and that is Deadpool, the 2016 film starring Ryan Reynolds. And so before we start getting into the movie, let's talk a little bit about Deadpool as the character, because you've never really understood or gotten that character, you said. That's where I don't like to say, well, I don't like the character, because there's really nothing about the character I don't like, but it's just I don't get him. I've got friends of mine that have given me issues and stuff like that. And they're, oh man, you're going to crack up. You're going to laugh. I read a Deadpool comic and okay. And, that's it. I don't get it. And it's the same thing with this movie. I just don't think he's as funny as everybody seems to think he is. Everybody seems to think he's this hilarious character. I'm sorry. I don't think he's that funny. I don't get it. I'm sorry. This is kind of funny because years back, I remember one of the first reviews you did of some of my stuff was back in fanfic days, and it was actually a Deadpool issue of mine that you reviewed that you were praising for the humor.
Well, because that's your, well, you know why? Because you're funny.
Well, thank you.
Funny. You know how to write.
Well, I think that's a good signal that it's just that you haven't found that right writer for Deadpool that would make you really.
There are way too many people, and as well as I do, there are way too many people, because most of them are on the internet, who think they're a lot funnier than they actually are.
Yeah, definitely.
Because of course most people think they're funny. I mean, who doesn't like to think that they're not funny? Everybody likes to think that they're funny. Unfortunately, everybody is not. Matter of fact, a lot of the funniest people are people who don't try to be funny.
Right. It just comes kind of naturally to them. You're right. Comes kind of naturally. And that is one of my issues with this movie, in that it's done by people who think they're hilarious, and they're not. Ryan Reynolds is a funny guy. He is a very funny guy, but I don't know. In this movie, it's like he's trying too hard. It's like everybody is trying to, well, not everybody, but you can see the writers, and I can just imagine that they were writing this stuff and they were sitting around and they were yucking and they were throwing up with laughter, and they was, of course, I'm perfectly willing to admit that I'm wrong, because this movie made a shitload of money.
Oh yeah, this was until Joker just recently unseated it. It was the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, I don't know what I'm talking about, because a lot of people obviously thought this was. And I know I have friends of mine that went back 2 and 3 times to see this when it was in the theater, during the original, theatrical run. They went back to see it 2 or 3 times. They thought it was like, the next thing to the Marx Brothers. But like I said, I went to see it during the original theater. And people always ask me, well, if you don't like it, why did you go see it? I went to see it because of my wife, God bless her, Patricia, who doesn't know all that much about superheroes and thinks that I'm interested in going to see anybody who wears a costume. So we went out shopping one day, and as usual, when we go out shopping, we say, well, we're going to go to dinner or we're going to go to a movie and give the traffic time to die down. And she said, well, I'll treat you to the movies. I said, okay, cool, let's go. Which usually means that it's a movie she wants to see, but she doesn't think I want to see it. But if she pays for it, well, then I'll go. Right. But but she took me to see Deadpool. I said, why would you take me? She said, well, it's a superhero movie, right? I said, oh, God bless her. So we went to see her, and she was giving me the old fisheye, all through the movie because of the language and stuff like that. Because Patricia doesn't particularly care for like all that language in her movie going. And I just said to her, listen, remember, you picked this out, not me. Okay, let's be clear on that. You picked this out. So that's how I ended up seeing it in the theater.
Okay. So a little bit of history on Deadpool, because the character, as he was originally created, I think most people would have had the same impression of him that you do, because basically he was just a knockoff of DC's Deathstroke. And because he was created by Rob Liefeld, and Rob Liefeld doesn't really have an original bone in his body. He just rips off other people who are more talented.
True.
And, he did that with Supreme. He did that with basically every single character he's ever created. But a lot of the characters... Sorry, go ahead.
Didn't he create that whole super team that basically was an X-Men knockoff?
Well, it was an X-Force knockoff, I think. And then Jim Lee created the X-Men knockoff. Because, back when the original 6 Image creators, when they left Marvel and they started Image Comics, they were basically all just doing more extreme versions of the books they were doing at Marvel. So Jim Lee did Wildcats, which was basically an X-Men ripoff. Rob Liefeld did Youngblood, which was an X-Force ripoff, and so on. And so yes, those two, especially more than any others, were just blatant ripoffs of Marvel stuff that they were doing before.
Okay.
But yeah, so he did, but the thing about Deadpool and a lot of characters that Liefeld created is that they ended up getting picked up by other creators who were much more talented and who ended up breathing more life into them. So Cable became a much more interesting character after Rob Liefeld was gone. Same thing with Deadpool. Same thing with Supreme over at Awesome Entertainment when Alan Moore took him and decided, well, screw it being, some extreme version of Superman. I'm just going to make him kind of like an ode to the classic Superman stories of the Silver Age.
Right, yeah. Exactly. That's when the character started. And I remember that even Cable, because I remember later on I was reading some Cable comics and I said, oh, wow, I said this character is actually pretty good. You know,
I remember
when I'd seen him previously, I didn't care for him at all. But then later on, I said, oh, wow, this character is pretty cool. But somebody else, like you said, somebody else was doing him at the time. Somebody else was writing the character.
Yeah, same thing with me with Cable. I did not like him at all when I first discovered him. And then it was another guy back from our fanfic days, Brad Horton, who turned me on because he was writing a Cable fanfic that was excellent. And he's like, well, if you like my stuff, you should go read the comics that Robert Weinberg is doing, who was, a horror novelist. And he was writing a stint on Cable. And I went and I started reading them, and damn, they were really good. And that made me a fan of the character after that.
Yeah, well, like I said, you know what? You've heard it, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this have heard it too, that there are no bad characters. There's just bad writers.
Right, exactly.
That if any writer of sufficient talent and imagination and creativity can take any character and make them interesting and make them, readable.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And there's no better example of that than a lot of these characters that were created by the Image guys in the early 90s. Most of them were just, very one-dimensional, not very well thought out. They're just knockoffs of other characters. But you had other writers come in, like Alan Moore in the case of Supreme, and Joe Casey in the case of Wildcats, and then Cable in the case of Robert Weinberg, and Deadpool, who was he got really popular in, I believe it was the late 90s. This was after the Onslaught crossover where the Avengers and the Fantastic Four had been killed off. So Marvel really rushed to fill the gap with all these other titles. And so one of those titles, they had a Heroes for Hire revival. They had Maverick. And then one of them was also Kazar. And then one of them was also Deadpool. And it was written by Joe Kelly. And I'm not sure, but I think he was the one who first really leaned into the fourth wall breaking stuff and really started injecting a lot of humor into the character. And that's when the character became really funny. And after Kelly did his stunt, Christopher Priest, who is probably most famous for Black Panther, also did a run. And that was actually when I came on. And even though in retrospect, even Priest said that he wasn't really happy with the way his Deadpool work turned out, at the time I was reading it, I thought it was really funny. And then I went back and I read the Joe Kelly stuff, which was also really good. I'm not sure how familiar you are with any of those, if you've read any of those books, because I know you said some friends have tried to give you some of them in the past.
Yeah, they had given me some of the Joe Kelly stuff, because I think that's probably the Deadpool that most people are familiar with, the one that Joe Kelly wrote.
Yeah,
I think that was the most successful, and I did read some of the Christopher Priest stuff, and I did read some of the Joe Kelly stuff. Because like I said, I had friends that were saying, oh man, you got to read this. And I said, well, I don't really care. No, read this. You'll find it funny. And, like I sit and read it, and, like I would chuckle. Ha. But I wouldn't like laugh out loud like I guess my friends do when they read it. They, will laugh out. But then, listen, I have to admit, too, that I have a wonky sense of humor. There is some stuff that I have been in movie theaters where people are laughing uproariously all around me, and I'm just sitting there saying, well, why is this funny? And then again, I went to see the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre during its original theatrical run. And I'm with my friends, and I'm laughing hysterically. Because I'm honestly believing that this is a spoof of horror movies. I can't believe anybody. And my friends told me, listen, man, you got to go over there. Go sit over there because you're ruining the movie for us. So I was cracking up, So, that's how my sense of humor works. Like I said, other people find it funny. And listen, if you think it's funny, God bless you. And I'm glad that you enjoy it. But I just, if I don't get it, I just don't get it. What can I tell you?
Yeah. Now, unfortunately, I think what you said about a lot of people thinking they're funny, unfortunately, a lot of those people have written Deadpool in the comics. Because, despite me liking the character and falling in love with him during the Kelly and the Priest run, the only writers who have really, I thought, done a good job of making Deadpool a funny comic there are four in total. There was Joe Kelly, Christopher Priest, and then Gail Simone, who, when she got the title, it basically kind of caused her career to skyrocket. And then she moved to...
Gail Simone. I've read some of it. Yeah. Now she's funny.
Yeah, she's very funny.
Yeah, she is funny.
And she also just recently did a Domino comic for Marvel, which was great.
Oh, okay.
So just, check that out at some point if you're interested. And then the other writer is Fabian Nicieza, who co-created Deadpool. But in the original stuff, he wasn't that funny. But later on, he did Cable and Deadpool comic book. And it was... I did not expect much from it, but it turned out to be really amazing. And his humor was really on point with Deadpool, and it was hysterical.
Okay, see now I've never read those, but now that you recommended it, I'll have to look them up and see if I get digital copies of that and check it out.
Yeah, I definitely recommend. I mean, since you tried the Kelly and the Priest stuff and it wasn't really your cup of tea, then I would at least say, check out the Simone stuff and the Cable and Deadpool stuff.
Oh, okay.
Because
I will make it.
Because that partnership did not seem like it could work at all. But now that comic ended up being so popular that it became almost a foregone conclusion that, of course, Cable would be in the sequel.
Oh, yeah. And I saw the sequel. Matter of fact, because I watched Deadpool today, but I watched Deadpool 2 the other day. Mm-hmm. Because I was, searching for it. Because I said, well, maybe. Because I thought I could find Deadpool looking through DirecTV and seeing if it was on demand someplace like that. Eventually, I just said, the hell with it. I'll just go and I'll rent it from Amazon. Mm-hmm. But I ran across Deadpool 2. And, I did not know that Josh Brolin was in that one.
Yeah. In fact, they had a few jokes about him being Thanos in that, too.
Yeah. So, oh shit. Well, now I gotta watch it, and actually, Deadpool 2, I did laugh more at Deadpool 2 than I did in the first movie.
One thing that's worth checking out too is Once Upon a Deadpool, which was Deadpool 2 edited. So it was edited down to PG-13 rating, and they also inserted scenes in it of Deadpool kidnapping Fred Savage and reenacting the bookend scenes of Princess Bride.
Oh, okay. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, the edited portions of the movie, it's basically just Deadpool 2 sanitized. So those you can just skip over. Those aren't really worth it. But it is definitely worth it just to see the scenes with Fred Savage, because it's like 30 minutes of footage of just the two of them. And Fred Savage has been kidnapped by Deadpool. And he's an adult. He's a grown man, but he's being chained up in this bed and being forced to listen to Deadpool read the story of Deadpool 2.
Now, see, that is an imaginative way if you're going to sanitize the movie, but you're giving people something extra.
Yeah.
So that they don't feel like, they're just taking my money. Mm-hmm. They just cutting out, some of the cuss words and some of the violence, but they're adding something extra in there to make it worth your time to want to go see it.
Yeah. And that's definitely what they did. So that's also worth checking out. But anyway, let's get back talking about this movie. Now, this movie actually took a very long time to make, like 16 years to make this movie. And that's because way back when, in 2000, when the first X-Men movie hit it big, Fox had the rights to all the X-Men characters. So they announced at the time that they were going to do a Deadpool movie starring Ryan Reynolds. And I remember at the time being on the message boards, everyone was like, wait, the guy from Van Wilder? Why are they making a Deadpool movie with him? That doesn't seem to make any sense. And what none of us knew at the time was that Ryan Reynolds would actually go on to become a pretty decent action star in his own right.
True.
But the movie kept getting delayed and set back, and, years went by without anything. And also another thing we didn't know at the time is that Ryan Reynolds himself was a huge Deadpool fan. And so this was like his dream role to play. And when he did Blade Trinity, which that movie was pretty much crap, but one thing I think everybody liked about it was Ryan Reynolds' ad-libbing, and that performance pretty much made everybody say, oh, okay, I see it now. I see how he can be Deadpool.
And didn't he? And then okay, so then it was okay. So he was in the Blade movie, and then it was after that Wolverine Origins, right?
Yeah, X-Men Origins Wolverine. That was the movie that was going to introduce him. Now they introduced him,
but nobody liked that version. No,
well, actually, they liked. Well, so there are two things here because you had Ryan Reynolds playing like a pre-scarred Wade Wilson at the beginning of the movie,
right?
And he all his lines were ad-libbed in that. And it shows because that's like the best part of the movie is like just Ryan Reynolds riffing on camera. But then what they did after that is they turned him into this weird experiment where they showed his freaking mouth shut, which
which kind of defeats the whole defeats the whole purpose of the character who is known for being a smartass.
Well, it reminds me of talking about Superman Lives, the doomed, never produced Superman movie, where and Kevin Smith was hired to take a pass in the screenplay. And when he met with the producer, John Peters said, I have 3 rules from you. Superman can't fly, he can't wear the costume, and he has to fight a giant robot spider in the 3rd act. And it's just like, so you're going to have Superman, but he can't fly and he can't wear the costume. How is that Superman then?
And for those of you who haven't seen it, okay, this is your homework assignment. Go out and find that concert film where Kevin Smith talks about his meeting.
Yeah, it's An Evening with Kevin Smith.
That is some of the funniest shit. That I'm sure that's like Richard Pryor level humor. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How funny that whole thing is, and also demonstrates how bizarre Hollywood is as well.
Yeah, and you can find it on YouTube, I believe. It's just called An Evening with Kevin Smith, or just search Kevin Smith Superman, and it should come up. But that's kind of what they did to Deadpool, is they took away what made the character unique. And there were a few post-credit scenes in X-Men Origins. There was one scene where he was in Japan, and there was another scene where you see Deadpool's severed head, and the mouth has been cut open now, and he opens his eyes and he says shh, and then and so they were planning on bringing him back in another movie and bringing him back as the real Deadpool, but then the movie tanked, and so they decided to go in a different direction for the second Wolverine movie.
And actually, that is one of the parts of Deadpool 2 I laughed out loud, where Deadpool goes back in time and he corrects some of the mistakes that Ryan Reynolds made in his career. Yeah, that was funny.
If you see it there's also the super duper cut of Deadpool 2, which is a little bit longer, and it's got a few alternate jokes, and they've got a bit of an extended version of the timeline sequence.
Oh, okay.
Where, like, there's one part where he interacts with Hugh Jackman, and he's like, I know you're hanging up the claws, but, one day your old buddy Wade is going to ask you to pick him back up, and on that day you're going to say yes. And then it also has him going back in time to killing baby Hitler.
And this is what, the super duper cut?
Yeah, it's the super duper cut.
Oh, okay.
It's well worth a look. Especially the opening sequence in Deadpool 2 is probably my favorite opening sequence of any movie, especially in the super duper cut.
Okay, I'm going to have to go on Amazon, because I believe Amazon has got it, because they got like 3 or 4 different, because I was looking, I said, wow, they got kind of like a lot of Deadpool stuff here. Yeah. But I thought it was just like different, because if you go on Amazon, they got like an HD, and then they got like a super HD, and, all different types of bullshit formats. But
yeah. So then this movie, Fox had greenlit it, they did some test footage, and then they canceled it, like almost right away. And so then someone, we don't know who, but someone leaked the test footage on the internet. And the test footage is basically that opening scene when he's in the car. And the internet went nuts over it. And so then Fox is just like, oh, fuck, now we got to make this damn movie. And it's funny because Fox avoided making this movie for so long. And then when they did, it was a huge hit. And then they're kind of like, why didn't we do this to begin with?
Yeah, like I'm saying, this movie. I don't recall. I think it didn't make $1 billion, but it was damn close. It was something like $700 or $800 million it made. So yeah, I mean, this movie took off in a way that nobody suspected that it would. They knew that they was going to make money because they said, well, the X fans are going to go see it. Superhero fans are going to see it, but it had people who went to see it because they were Ryan Reynolds fans, of course. And you had people who didn't normally go see superhero movies. They went to see this.
Okay, so the budget was $58 million, which is like the smallest budget of superhero movies nowadays. But
that's like the catering budget for Avengers Endgame.
Right, exactly, yeah. But the total worldwide gross is over $782 million.
Okay, yeah, okay. I knew I heard it was something like that, $700 to $800 million that it made something like that. But listen, like I said, I knew it was just a shitload of money this thing made.
Yeah, and Reynolds was so determined to get this movie made that he put up some of the financing himself. Because Fox was worried that nobody would want to see an R-rated superhero movie.
Well, I heard he paid out of his own pocket to have the writers on set.
Yeah, because they had been working together on the writers, and Reynolds wanted the writers on the set to help with daily rewrites. And Fox is just like, no, we're not going to pay for them to be on set. So Ryan Reynolds is like, all right, fine, I'm paying for them to be on set too.
Good for him.
Another thing too is in the first scene you see him as Wade Wilson when he goes to the guy with the pizza delivery guy. He's wearing a B. Arthur shirt.
Yeah.
He had to pay $10,000 to get permission to use B. Arthur's likeness.
Really?
Yeah, because in the comics, Deadpool is a huge Golden Girls fan, and he's in love with B. Arthur. So Ryan Reynolds had to get that in the movie. And so then he paid up $10,000 to be able to use B. Arthur in this one shot. And then that money ended up going to charity.
See, that's why, and I know there's a lot of people, I mean, Ryan Reynolds has a lot of fans, but then there are a lot of people that don't like Ryan Reynolds for no other reason than I could think of, simply because he's Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
But you know what? From things like that, that he's willing to pay out of his pocket for it. See, that's a stand-up guy. That's a guy that is committed to his art and his project or whatever he's doing, when he's willing to dig in his own pocket and say, well, you know something, this is what I want done. Like he said, like you said, I mean, the studio said, well, we're not paying for it. He said, well, fuck you, I'll pay for it. I want the writers on the set.
Yeah. And more than that, too, I mean, there's this one kid who was 13-year-old cancer patient in Canada who loved Deadpool, and he wanted to see the movie, but he was worried that he wouldn't be able to live long enough to see the movie. When Ryan Reynolds heard about this story, he took a finished cut of the movie to the kid's house and gave him a special screening. And,
wow.
Yeah, and that kid ended up being the first person who saw the finished cut of the movie.
Now that's cool. That that says a lot about Ryan Reynolds as a human being and as a man, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, but I've always liked him. I mean, even though, like I said, I wasn't crazy about the movie or anything like that, I like Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, me too. I've liked him ever since I saw Van Wilder.
Now, I've never seen Van Wilder, so I have no idea what you're talking about. But I know people keep talking about it, Van Wilder. And it seems like something that I should have seen, but I've never seen it. But, everything else I've seen him in, I just like him.
Yeah.
He's like our modern Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
He's like our Burt Reynolds now, because he's got that kind of charisma. About him. He's just on the screen and you start smiling.
Right, yeah. And even if he's in a terrible movie, it's still entertaining with him in it. Like that X-Men Origins Wolverine. I will watch the scene. I will watch that movie just for that scene when he's just riffing at the camera.
Now, I just watched this movie on Netflix that he's in, the Michael Bay movie. Terrible movie.
Oh, yeah, Six Underground or something like that?
Yeah, Six Underground. Yeah, but he's Ryan Reynolds, so he's still having the time of his life, even though it's a terrible movie.
Right.
It is, but he's having the time of his life in it, and you get the impression that he's the guy that truly appreciates the fact that he gets to play dress up, and I mean he doesn't take himself seriously.
No, not at all.
You know what I mean? I mean he takes what he does seriously. But he realizes that in the total worldview of things, he's just making movies, and it's not no holy calling or something that, I don't know, like, who can I name? Like there's some actors that act like this is some kind of holy calling that they're called to.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And they got to sacrifice for their art and they got to suffer for their art and everything like that. No, he's having fun doing this because he said, man, I get to make movies, make a lot of money, go all over the world and see people. And, and he's having the time of his life. And I appreciate that. That's all I got to say.
I mean, then he's done movies like he did Safe House with Denzel Washington, which he was great in, and then the Hitman's Bodyguard with Samuel L. Jackson, which the two of them together, I want to see. Now that Deadpool is owned by Marvel again, I want to see Nick Fury and Deadpool in a movie. Oh yeah,
most definitely. Aren't they supposed to be doing a sequel to the Hitman's Bodyguard?
Oh, I heard something about that, but I'm not sure what the story on that is. But that would be great if they do, because that was a really underrated, really hilarious movie.
I enjoyed it. Even though it wanted so bad to be Midnight Run. Mm-hmm. To the point where they even stole the theme music. They did. There was one sequence where they played the Midnight Run theme. They wanted to be Midnight Run. But again, how can you fight against the combination of Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson?
Plus Selma Hayek in one of her most hilarious roles ever.
She stole the movie. Every scene she was in, she stole it. Oh, she was hilarious.
I just saw that movie again for like the first time since it first came out. And I'm like, how come I don't watch this movie more? It's so good.
I know, right? I saw it in the theater, and then I saw it on, what was it? Was it Showtime or HBO? Something like that. I saw it, and I had the same feeling. I said, damn, why don't I watch this movie more?
All right. So let's talk about Deadpool the movie. What are some of the things that did work for you or didn't work for you?
All right. Since I was knocking the movie earlier, I feel bound that I have to say something in its defense. And it does have a lot to recommend it. First of all, have you ever talked to your friends and you're talking about superhero movies or just movies and even James Bond movies, everything like that, and they'll give you that crap about, well, I don't know about this movie because there's really no suspense because the characters aren't going to die.
Oh, I hate that bullshit.
Shit. Yeah, I hate that shit because, of course they're not going to die, stupid. Full and well going into a James Bond movie, James Bond is never going to die.
Yeah.
Batman movie, he's not going to die. Superman's not going to die. No matter if they tell you, well, they killed Superman in this movie, by the end of the movie, he's going to be back.
Yeah.
So I hate that argument that, well, there's no suspense in these movies because we know these characters aren't going to die. Well, the thing I like about Deadpool is that it takes that shit right out the equation by giving you a character who can't die. I do. I like that. They give you a character who can't die. Therefore, we can dispense with that nonsense because we know the character is not going to get killed. But that's not what the movie is about in any way. But that is one thing that I like right off the bat, that we dispense with that nonsense. The humor in the movie, even though I don't care for a lot of the humor in the movie, because to me it's on the level of a 6-year-old who discovers the word fuck and keeps saying it over and over again, to get a reaction. But I do appreciate the fact that if we did not have that humor in there, you would just have a conventional superhero movie.
Yeah, it plays very, like, that's the thing. I've seen this movie probably dozens of times. And so what happens when you've seen a comedy movie that many times, that you stop laughing at the jokes because you know them all anyway. Even if you still think they're funny, it's
right.
You just don't have that reaction anymore. And that's me with this movie. And a lot of comedy movies, when it gets to that point, you stop watching it completely, because once the humor's gone, there's no point in watching it anymore. But
exactly.
But Deadpool is one of those movies that it's still enjoyable as just a movie on its own.
Yeah, I mean, even if you, I can appreciate the action sequences, because it does got some great action sequences. The fight that's in the lab when it's burning, that's a great sequence. Of course, the big fight at the end on the helicarrier, of course, the highway.
The highway sequence is my favorite, I think.
Right, yeah, the highway sequences. It's got some terrific action sequences. But if you did not have the character of Deadpool and the nature of Deadpool, you would have just like, if he wasn't wisecracking or anything like that, this would be just a really straight, conventional superhero story.
Yeah.
But that's good. Even though, you know what? One thing that I think that they could have made him uglier. Because everybody, because that's supposed to be like a whole big thing about him, that, he's all messed up and, he looks horrible and everything like that. But actually, he just looks like Ryan Reynolds with bad makeup.
It's kind of hard to make Ryan Reynolds look ugly, so.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Even though everybody goes on and on about how horrible he looks. And even at the end, his girlfriend, she looks at him, she said, well, you know what? It's not that bad. And she's right. Yeah, he looks messed up, but yeah, he looks like Ryan Reynolds with bad makeup on. Okay. One point I do want to make that I don't think gets talked about a lot with this movie, in that there's some really strong roles for women in this movie.
Yeah. One of my favorite characters in this movie is Blind Al.
Yeah, Blind Al, played by the great Leslie Uggams, who, when I saw it, I was sitting in the movie theater and I said, "Oh shit, it's Leslie Uggams." I haven't seen her in forever, and she's really good in this movie.
Oh, she's even better in Deadpool 2. If you want, definitely check out the super duper cut, because she's got some great lines in that.
She's really good. We've got Morena Baccarin, who, on any list of the 10 hottest women walking the planet today, she'd be on that list. Matter of fact, she'd be in the top 5,
especially in this movie.
Yeah, and even though especially in this movie, but she plays a prostitute, but she doesn't play a victim.
Right.
She doesn't play a victim.
Now, I don't know if you know this, but in the comics, Vanessa is actually a mutant herself, and she's a shapeshifter.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so they have little hints at it, because in the comics, she's got white skin and white hair, so they give her the little white streak in her hair. And she also makes the comment about her having played a lot of roles, which also kind of hints at that too. And so I was kind of expecting, like, when he puts her in that tube at the end, that would have been some sort of trigger for her powers in the sequel, which they didn't end up doing, but that's kind of what I thought would happen.
So we've got her, Teenage Negasonic Warhead.
Negasonic Teenage Warhead. Brianna, played by Brianna Hildebrand.
Who cracks me up. She's hilarious. Again, because she's funny because she's not trying to be funny. She's trying to be a regular teenager.
She's playing it completely straight, and it's great. And also, the funny thing about this is the character Negasonic Teenage Warhead was actually just kind of a throwaway character that Grant Morrison used in his X-Men run. Because they had the destruction of Genosha and all the mutants, and right before the Sentinels arrive, this one student of Emma Frost, she says, something bad's going to happen. I had a dream and we're all going to die. And then boom, the Sentinels attack. And then later, Emma Frost finds her body in the wreckage, and she said, her name was Negasonic. She chose the name Negasonic Teenage Warhead for herself. And it was just kind of like this throwaway thing. And when they were looking for list of characters to use, they were thinking about Cannonball, they were thinking about some others. They came across the name Negasonic Teenage Warhead, and they're like, that name is perfect. We're using this character, even though she's going to be nothing like the character in the comics.
Oh, man. She has this terrific scene where Deadpool He's going to go rescue his girlfriend. So he goes to the X mansion and he knocks on the door and she opens up the door and he says, okay, well, you're going to come with me to help rescue my girlfriend. You get Colossus and you come on and get me. And we're going to go save her. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to hear no out of you. And nothing. Like, she's giving him shit back and forth and they're going back and forth. And then he says something to the effect like, it's really weird. Every time I come here, he said, it's just the two of you. It's like the studio couldn't afford any more X-Men. And he walks away. But the look that she gives him is like, because of course she doesn't know what he's talking about, right? Because he knows the character in a movie, but she doesn't know. But just that look is so perfect on her face. I started like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? Oh, she's a terrific. Matter of fact, her and Colossus, even though he's a CGI character, to me, now see, all the humor in the movie, to me, comes from them two. Mm-hmm. I could have easily watched the movie with Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead. Easily. Yeah. Just the two of them.
And I love when they're at the final battle and Colossus has just gotten knocked out and then Deadpool's like, that's why I brought her. And she's busy tweeting.
Yeah, and she holds up a finger like, don't even, Yeah. Oh man, she is. I'm telling you, I could watch her. And Colossus, even though he's got that ridiculous moose and squirrel accent, I love how he's like this big lump of self-righteousness, and he's trying to redeem Deadpool, and Deadpool doesn't want to be redeemed. He just wants to rescue his girlfriend and kill the bad guy.
Well, actually, that's actually the guy's real accent.
Really?
Yeah, Stefan Kapisik. He's like fluent in Russian and he's from Eastern Europe. So yeah, that was his real accent.
Okay, because when I heard it, I thought that he was doing, the Natasha Moose and Squirrel accent, from Rocky and Bullwinkle. That's what I thought he was doing. Oh, who knows? But there's a great scene at the end. Him and Deadpool have had their fight and they're laying there. Okay, so he's laying there, and Deadpool is there, and he's got a gun to his head, and he's telling them, okay, well, you got to fix my face. And then Colossus walks up and starts giving this speech. Mm-hmm. And even the bad guy goes, oh, shit. Like, he doesn't... Oh, man.
And then he shoots him while Colossus is in the middle of the speech, and he's like, why? He's like, well, you were droning on.
Yeah, he said, man, you were just rattling on. He said, what was I supposed to do? Oh, man. It's great. I mean... There are moments like that I laugh, but it was more because of Deadpool was interacting with other characters and they were responding to things that he was doing rather than when him, like, that whole monologue he does when he has the highway fight and he's talking back and forth, like that stuff. That wasn't funny to me. I appreciate the fact that Ryan Reynolds is so gifted at ad-libbing that they just let him go ahead and do it. Mm-hmm. But a lot of that stuff goes a long way as far as I'm concerned. But I mentioned the strong.
Talking about Colossus some more is like, I like that this is like the first movie when we actually see Colossus in this movie, because he does more in this movie than Daniel Cudmore did in 3 X-Men movies.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one reason why I do like this movie, because Colossus is one of my favorite characters. He's X-Men he's an X-Man that I've always loved. And I appreciate that in this movie, he actually has something to do.
Yeah.
He wasn't just a big hulking guy that was in the background.
I mean, even when in The Last Stand, when he was supposed to be a member of the core X-Men team, he still had like one line in the whole damn movie.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't have anything to do, and this is a guy that's supposed to be one of the mainstays of the team. Mm-hmm. And he didn't have a lot to do. And like I said, that's one thing that I really liked about this movie. And you know what? You get the feeling that him and Deadpool do have a real relationship in this movie.
Yeah, especially when you get around to the second film, because that comes into play even more.
Right? Yeah. Because listen, there's a reason why Deadpool always goes to him for help. Mm-hmm. He always goes against Colossus, not just because that they don't have the budget for it, but you get the feeling that, he honestly does like the guy.
I also do love that they hint at this history between them, right? Like when they hear about the guy in the red suit, he's like, oh, it's Deadpool again. And it's like, all right, I have to do this again, have to go talk to this guy again and read him the riot act.
Exactly. Yeah, he's sitting there, he's trying to have his breakfast, and he's hearing about this carnage and everything like this. Oh, it's a guy in a red suit. And he says, oh, shit, Deadpool. He says, okay. And he gets the nigga started Teenage Warriors and come on, let's go. We got to go get him. We got a mission.
I also love his, just like his interactions with her, right? Like, he's like, you know, she says, why can't he see the benefits? She's like, what benefits? The house that blows up every year or the matching unitards? And he's like, house blowing up builds character.
And of course, I cannot finish talking about the women in this movie without talking about Gina Carano, who I had completely forgotten was in this movie. Until I said, oh shit, how could I forget she was in it? And as I said in our Facebook group, I said, why is this woman not the #1 action movie star in the world?
Yeah, and she's proven in, I finished watching The Mandalorian the other day, and she's got some good acting chops too. It's not just the action stuff.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay, we know that she can do, the action stuff because she was a professional MMA fighter. I believe, and she knows, martial arts and everything like that. But she actually can act. I've seen a couple of her other movies, like Haywire, and there's a couple of action movies that she made. And of course, The Mandalorian. And I have no idea why this woman is not the #1 action movie star in the world. Really. I can't, because if I was a producer, I would say, listen, put her in everything and anything we can find for her. But hey, I don't run a movie studio, unfortunately.
I do. One of the scenes I love was her fight with Colossus when her shirt snaps open and he stops the fight so that he can tell her to fix her shirt.
Oh yeah. And they very strategically have his thumb placed so you can't see her boobs. and she says, oh, thank you. You're such a gentleman. And then she gets up and proceeds to knock him on his ass again. They just resume the fight like nothing has happened, Yeah, that was a good one. I got to admit that. As a matter of fact, I wish her role had been beefed up a little bit more because she was so enjoyable, in this movie. Which, as I said, a lot of people are. This is a great cast, great action scenes. It's just that I just feel like, for instance, the opening credits. To me, that smacked too much of ha ha ha. Aren't we being clever?
Well, actually, that was done as a placeholder originally because that was made back when they were doing the test footage. So So they didn't actually have anything to put there at the time. But the director, Tim Miller, he loved it so much that he wanted to keep it in.
Okay. Well, listen, he's a director. It's his choice. I just looked at it. I said, yeah, it's me like they were trying to point out how clever they were being, But like I said again, that's just me. Some people I know loved it. They said
when I remember seeing those credits for the first time, I was laughing my ass off.
Friends of mine have told me, they said that those credits set the tone of the movie for them. That showed them it was going to be irreverent and it wasn't going to take itself too seriously. And okay, yeah, you know what? I can see that. I can. I'm just saying that it didn't work. It smacked too much like they were trying too hard right from the start. Oh, hey, we're going to be hip and clever and funny. And isn't this, I don't know. Like I said, that's just me.
Okay.
But moving right along.
Well, before we move on from the women, there's one of my favorite scenes in this movie is when he's going on his revenge spree trying to find information about Ajax and he fights these two ninja girls. Right? And he hits one of them and she's like, no, please. And he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And he's like, this is so confusing. Is it sexist to hit you or is it more sexist not to hit you?
Yeah, and then he pulls out, and then he shoots her in the head. Yeah, bam! He just, okay, well, because the other girl, she jumps on his back,
right?
And he throws her, and he says, "Well, I don't know what to do." Yeah, because okay, I just hit you, and you're a girl. I'm not supposed to hit a girl, but you did attack me, and I'm supposed to, everything is supposed to be equal, and stuff. And also, that's a very real commentary on a lot of things that go on these days. Is it more more sexist to hit a woman or not to hit a woman when she's attacking? Yeah. It's a very funny commentary.
I love
that. Was
part,
cute.
yeah.
I have to give it to you. I have to give it to you. That was good.
All right. So you're about to move on to something next before I interrupted with that aside. So.
Oh, yeah. What did you think about? Okay. The bad guy, I don't know if you can really call. I don't know.
Ed
to
Skrein.
Me, it seemed. Yeah, who?
Ed Skrein.
Yeah, what he play? Francis /
Francis Ajax. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. There was something off about him. I don't know. It just seemed like he wasn't enough of a bad guy for me.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe
it felt a bit.
Maybe I'm used to these world-conquering supervillains and stuff like that. Maybe I'm too used to that, but it just seems to me like he just seemed like pretty common.
Yeah. There wasn't anything really that set him out. I mean, he does fine in the role, but I do think the role was a bit underwritten.
Yeah. I mean, he's not like a memorable bad guy. Like if you go down the roads and you think of great bad guys in superhero films, this isn't going to be one of the guys that's going to, stand out. At least not for me.
I think you're right there.
Even though the actor does a good job, he relishes what he's doing, which is something I wanted to ask you while I was watching this movie. Wasn't in the comic books Deadpool? Wasn't he associated with the Weapon X project, and that's how he got his superpower?
I'm going from memory here, but I believe it was like some sort of offshoot of the Weapon X project. Like in the comics, his healing factor actually comes from a synthesized version of Wolverine's healing factor. So he's not actually a real mutant in the comics.
Right, that's what I thought. Because I was saying, I don't know that much about the character, but I was watching. I said, wait, and then they got to the whole sequence where the guy comes and he says to Wade, "Well, we've got this process, and we can." Cure the cancer, and we might be able to even give you superpowers and stuff like that. And I was thinking, I said, wait a minute, wasn't he part of that whole Weapon X package thing? Because it was Wolverine, it was Guardian, it was a whole bunch of other characters.
Oh, at one point, pretty much every X character was connected to the Weapon X project.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, you got a point there. But I said, okay, well, I can see why they changed that for the movie to make it more streamlined.
I'm actually a little bit surprised they did change it because this ties in with the other X-Men movies. So I was a little bit...
Well, it's a funny... Well, I don't know, but I don't know if it was because of the budget or what, because it seemed like they wanted to have their cake and eat it too with this movie, and that they wanted it to be its own thing, but they wanted to, which is why I guess Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead is in there too, because they wanted some connection to the X universe, but they wanted this movie to be its own thing as well.
Yeah, it's really weird. When you try to think of how this places in the timelines, it's really bizarre because... you've got Colossus here, who's much more like the comics. He speaks with the Russian accent. But then you had Days of Future Past, which came out about a year or two before this, when they still had the American Daniel Cudmore playing Colossus. And then, but it's the same mansion they use, the same castle they use for the X-Mansion and the other X-Men movies. The Blackbird design is the same. The costume design's basically the same sensibilities.
Right, yeah.
And in the second movie, you actually get a cameo from the X-Men Apocalypse cast. Or the X-Men, I think it was Dark Phoenix cast at that time.
And there's even, like in this movie, there's a throwaway line. I'm guessing that Ryan Reynolds, he ad-libbed it, because as I understand, he ad-libbed like 75% of his dialogue in this. Like there's a throwaway line where he's wondering if it's James McAvoy or Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, I love that line.
Where he says
these timelines are so confusing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I guess, I'm wondering if also that was a way of him trying to explain away why this Colossus is so different from the Colossus that we've seen before.
Yeah.
Because not only is Deadpool aware of the fact that he's a character in a movie, he's aware of the fact that there are different versions. Also,
and apparently
so
Beast shits on his lawn all the time.
He what?
Apparently Beast shits on his lawn all the time.
Oh, yeah, right, exactly, yeah. So, so not only, yeah, that's what I'm wondering, if that was Reynolds' way of trying to explain why this Colossus, like you said, is so different from the ones that we've seen before. Because the one we saw didn't speak with a Russian accent.
Oh, in fact, Ryan Reynolds' line about how it's almost as if the studio couldn't afford another X-Man, the chairman of Fox Studios at the time, that was his favorite line in the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Because it was probably true. They probably wouldn't pay. Oh, no. Listen, you get 2 X-Men and that's it. I'm not paying for another X-Men.
Oh, it is true. I mean, like, I think they wanted Hugh Jackman to have a cameo in it, but the studio wouldn't pay for it. And then all they did was they just used that cutout of Hugh Jackman's face from the magazine cover.
Yeah. Yeah, they use that cutout, and there's a brief scene where Deadpool is throwing guns in a bag, and for some reason I guess to have Hugh Jackman, because it's a copy of People magazine with Hugh Jackman's face on it, the sexiest man alive.
Mm-hmm. And he also pokes fun at, I like how he pokes fun at himself too, when Al is telling him that looks aren't everything, and he's like, no, looks are everything. Do you think Ryan Reynolds got where he is on his superior acting ability?
Yeah. Okay. See what I mean? It goes back to what I said earlier. Ryan Reynolds is a guy that doesn't take himself, all that seriously, which I appreciate, that he knows how to have a good time with himself, which to me is a very appealing quote, which is why I guess I like him, because, not to brag too much, but it's a quality I think that I also have. I don't take myself too seriously, I don't. It's life. We're not going to get out of it alive.
Have you ever seen his Twitter feed? It's hysterical, especially the tweets about his daughter.
Really?
Oh, it's so funny. Yeah, look it up. Ryan Reynolds' daughter tweets after this. It's so funny.
Oh, okay. I'm not a big Twitter person, but there are some famous people I do follow. And even once in a while, I get a response. Vincent D'Onofrio liked one of my tweets one time. That made my day.
Same here.
Yeah.
He's all over Twitter.
Yeah. Him and, what's his name? The guy from Star Trek, George Takei.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
There's a few other people, like a couple of other writers that I follow. They're like all over Twitter all the time. Twitter is a pretty, I found that you can connect more with famous people on Twitter than you can on Facebook.
Yeah, definitely.
If you're going to connect with an actress or actor or
and also
a writer,
sometimes very surprising ways too. Like, I've been surprised by the kind of tweets that I've got that have been liked by somebody famous.
Yeah, me too. I said, whoa, really? That person liked my tweet? And I have no idea how they found it.
Right,
but,
yeah.
Hey, listen, I'll take it where I can get it.
But, yeah, there are, for me, the superhero origin story part of it was kind of like the weakest part. So the part when he was in the workshop, that was actually kind of like the weakest part of the movie. And when I rewatch it, that's kind of the time when I'm sort of drifting towards my phone.
Okay.
I don't know. How did you feel about that?
Like I said earlier, if it wasn't for the fact that we had this character, Deadpool, with his irreverent humor and his constantly breaking the fourth wall, this would be like I said earlier, this would be a conventional superhero movie. You have your origin story. You have him tragically scarred. If you didn't have any humor at all, this would be a pretty grim movie.
Yeah.
He gets cancer. He has the accident. He gets scarred. He can't go back and see. He goes on this revenge quest. And then finally he's got to defeat the bad guy, and he's reunited with his girl. That's all pretty standard stuff. The only thing that actually makes it differently is the character of Deadpool that we're dealing with, who propels us through this story.
Yeah, it's part serious superhero movie and part parody of a serious superhero movie.
Well, yeah, and while I don't think, let me see, what's the best way that I could put it? It takes a left turn. Mm-hmm. In that, as you say, it would be very easy for it to be a straight superhero movie, but it goes in that direction of being a parody of it. And also, while a lot of people question the need, they said, well, do we really need an R-rated superhero movie? I said, well, why not? Why not an R-rated superhero movie? Especially when you have a character like that. Like, one of the things that always bothered me about, okay, if you do a Wolverine movie, when they did have a Wolverine movie and it was R-rated, the one he went to Japan was R-rated.
There were two versions of it. There was a theatrical version, and then there was an R-rated, like uncut version or something like that.
Right. Okay. But see, you have a character like that, it needs to be R-rated because the guy's got friggin' claws that come out the back of his hand, and you can't have him just knocking people out with his. He's not like Captain America who can just throw the shield and knock it out. I mean, Wolverine kills people. There's no way to get around that. So it's going to be a pretty high body count. So yeah, a Wolverine movie needs to be R-rated. Some superhero characters, I think that they need to be R-rated. Simply because of the nature of who they are or what kind of circles they travel into. Like, really, by all rights, Batman, that should be R-rated movies, really. If we were dealing with Batman the way he should be dealt with.
Yeah, it could be. But also on that same line of thought, I think you should not have a Superman movie that's PG-13. The Superman movie should be PG, really.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there is no reason for an R-rated Superman movie.
Oh, definitely not. No.
Because Superman is not that type of character. But I'm saying there's certain types of character, like for instance, Deadpool. Deadpool kills people. There's no way to get around that. So, yeah, the character deserves an R-rated movie. If, The Punisher. Punisher should be an R-rated movie. Yeah. Because he kills people. I mean, there's no way to get unless you're going to whitewash the character and sanitize him like they did sometimes in his comic book appearances. Because one thing that always drove me crazy about the Punisher, that when he was by himself, he was capping people left and right, blowing heads off.
And then when he teams up with Captain America and he's using rubber bullets.
Right, and you're right, and he's using a taser. What? Really? Seriously? Why would you deball the character like that? Instead of just, he don't deal with superheroes at all because that's not his thing.
Well, that's one of the things I really liked when Garth Ennis was allowed to take the character into the Max line, which was the Marvel's mature readers line, is they just let him say, okay, you know what? This is an alternate universe. This is a Frank Castle who has been around, who did serve in Vietnam. So he's in like his 50s or 60s now. And there are no superheroes here. I mean, they did have Bullseye and Kingpin and Nick Fury, but they were very different from their Marvel Universe counterparts.
Yeah, which really is the way to go with the Punisher. Because let's face it, if he was in a world with superheroes and stuff like that, he wouldn't last too long because, you'd have somebody like Iron Man or Captain America, would hunt him down. And that would be the end of it, which is why I remember one time there was an Avengers comic. Spider-Man was missing. And the Avengers was looking for him. And it was somebody, I don't remember who it was, but it was somebody that said, well, why are we looking for Spider-Man? What purpose does he serve? And Iron Man says, well, he serves a very serious purpose because if he wasn't out there keeping down street crime, we'd have to do it. And we couldn't deal with Thanos and the Kree and the Skrull like we're supposed to be doing. He said, so he had his plan. So the point I'm trying to make is that every superhero has a niche that they fit. And Deadpool.
Just on a brief digression about that, that's what annoys me about everybody wanting Spider-Man to be an Avenger, because I think Spider-Man works better on the streets as a solo hero.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you lose that everyman aspect of Peter Parker having having to struggle with his life and all that when he's got Tony Stark on speed dial.
I never approved of Spider-Man being in the Avengers. And he deserves to be an Avenger. It's not the fact that he deserves to be an Avenger. Of course he does. But there's a reason why he's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Right. It detracts from the character's purpose to put him in there. It doesn't add anything to him at all. Yeah. It only detracts.
Exactly. It's like him, Daredevil, Luke Cage, Misty Knight. There is a reason why they're called street level heroes.
Right.
Because that's what they deal with. They deal with the street. They deal with, street crime and, gangsters and, the kingpin and stuff like that. The Avengers deal with, the cosmic menaces. Mm-hmm. Having the Avengers, like I remember when they fight somebody like, I don't know, the Taskmaster or the Zodiac, that's not who the Avengers should be fighting.
Right.
They should be dealing with, Thanos and, the Kree and the Skrull and all them guys. That's who they deal with. Dr. Doom.
I remember when Brian Bendis first took over the Avengers and they're going around and they're fighting ninjas and stuff like that. And I'm like, well,
yeah.
I mean, if you want to write a Marvel Knights book, just write a Marvel Knights book.
It's, yeah, but going back to Deadpool, like I said, he fits a niche. Mm-hmm. A niche. Is that the proper pronunciation?
I think it's niche.
He's got a place. He's got a place that he fulfills. And I respect that. And I believe that, the R-rated realm is the perfect realm for a character like this. Now, of course, as you have said, and I know, there are PG-13 versions of the character. But
well, yeah, in the comics, I mean, during Joe Kelly's run, it was all still, Comics Code approved stuff. So, and it would still manage to be pretty funny. But it is nice to be able to see him be able to cut loose like this.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? Even though, like I said, it's not my brand of humor, watching it today, I have to say that I watch it. And again, I go back. I always say that I do enjoy revisiting a movie after some time has passed, because then I can look at it a little bit more objectively. And especially when we're doing something like this, I'm watching this totally objectively. Mm-hmm. I'm taking my feelings out of the equation about how I feel about the character. I'm looking at the movie like today I was looking at it, and I said, on the basis of story, character, and entertainment value, is this worth the time? Is this a good movie? Mm-hmm. And I would have to say yes. Yeah, It's a good movie. Is it a great movie? No, it's not a great movie, but it's not a worthless movie, and it's one that I say is worth your time. If you don't know Deadpool, if you don't know anything about Deadpool, I think you'll still have a good time with this movie. Just take it just as a comedy action movie, as a guy that's in a costume.
Well, that's, because Deadpool's not a really famous character to begin with. I mean, so but the marketing behind this movie was absolutely genius.
Right. Which was?
They did so many different things. I remember when they were at one time they were billing it as because it came out on Valentine's Day, so they released ads that depicted it almost like a romantic comedy.
Which is another reason why I think probably why this movie was so successful, and that other people would look at it and okay, you have people who don't know anything about superheroes, right? Mm-hmm. Who wouldn't go normally to see a superhero movie, but they look at this character and it's not Batman, it's not Superman. So he doesn't have all that baggage behind him and everything like that. All people know that it's a Ryan Reynolds movie where he's playing a superhero. And they probably say, well, you know what, I'll go see it. Because I kind of, how can I put that? I kind of get the feeling that some people are intimidated by all the backstory of other superheroes, and that's why they don't bother with it.
Yeah, I could see that.
They feel like they have to know something. Like, okay, anytime me and my wife go see any superhero movie, she insists I give her a tutorial as to who the character is. No, because she said she feels stupid sitting there. She doesn't know who this is and who this is, who that is, So I have to give her a tutorial. And I wonder if a lot of people, that's why they don't like superhero movies, is that they feel, they feel that they have.
one of my best friends, every time she goes to see a superhero movie, like as soon as she gets home, she messages me on Facebook. She's like, okay, I've got a lot of questions. And then she just types out like this long list of questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's Patricia. Anytime we go see, every time we go, any superhero movie we go see, she sits me down. She says, okay, who is this? What do I need to know? Mm-hmm. And I'll sit there and I'll tell her, okay, well, this is Aquaman. He lives at the bottom of the sea. He can talk to fish and blah, 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 blah. And she says, okay, now we can go see it. And she said, yeah, because she said she hates sitting there and she doesn't know who these people are. Mm-hmm. So, but with Deadpool, you don't have that problem because, you know, he's not a wildly popular character to the hoi polloi. You know, like you and me know who he is from the comic. If you read comic books at all, you have some knowledge of the character.
Right.
But if you're just, you know, like a regular person, all you know is that this is Ryan Reynolds in this action comedy where he's playing some kind of superhero. But since it's not, you know, Wonder Woman or Batman or Superman and you or Captain America and you got to know like 50 years worth of Marvel Comics to go see it, you feel more comfortable seeing this character. Maybe that was part of the popularity. I don't know.
I think so.
I'm just speculating here.
I also really got to hand it to Ryan Reynolds for committing so much to this because you don't see his face, like his real face, throughout like 95% of the movie. Like he's either wearing a mask or he's in the burn makeup, but you only see him as Ryan Reynolds for like, you know, a total of maybe 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, there's like 10 minutes at the beginning of the movie when he has the thing with the pizza guy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then he goes to the bar and he's talking to his friend.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like only 10. Yeah, I mean, you know, yeah,
and you know he had to fight the studio on that because the studio probably wanted to be able to build this as, you know, showing as much Ryan Reynolds' face as possible.
Well, again, I think that's why they did not make the burn makeup as horrific as I feel that it should have been. You know, because like I said, he's still recognizably Ryan Reynolds. Even though, like I said, he just looks like Ryan Reynolds with really bad skin. Mm-hmm. You know, he doesn't look like, you know, to me, he should be all horribly mangled up and scarred. His face should look like a pizza. Mm-hmm. You know, but he doesn't. Like I said, he looks. Know what it kind of reminds me of when Josh Brolin played Jonah Hex?
Right.
And all he had was just that little piece of skin that was, you know.
Right, yeah.
And really, that's all. Yeah, that's all. Whereas, I mean, you know, the comic book Jonah Hex, half his face looks like a mess. Mm-hmm. Because he was burned with a tomahawk. You know, the Indians took a tomahawk and they stuck it in the fire until it was red hot, and then they burned his face. Mm-hmm. So, you know, he was horribly scarred. But in the movie, Josh Brolin just had that one little piece of skin, you know, hanging over his mouth. And I said, well, it wasn't a Jonah Hex movie anyway, you know, but that's all. We'll get into that when we get to Jonah Hex somewhere down the road.
But what I like what they did is because one of the arguments that they have for, and you see in a lot of superhero movies, like every Spider-Man movie, his mask comes off halfway into the fight. Every Captain America movie, his mask is off for most of the time. But this one, they committed to keeping him in the mask as much as possible. And they got around the problem of an expressionless mask by making it part CGI. So his eyes, even though they're just blank white, are very expressive because of that.
What was that one Spider-Man movie? Oh my God, that was so ridiculous. The audience was cracking up. Because what was that one? I believe it was Spider-Man 3. He was in the middle of a fight, and every 2 minutes, he would take off his mask, talk, and then put it back on, fight some more, stop, take off his mask, put it back on.
Oh, I think you're talking about, I think it was Spider-Man 3, and that was Venom.
And it got to be ridiculous after a while.
Because he had the Venom mask on, and then it kept opening up to show Topher Grace's face with the teeth. And like every time he spoke, and he only had the Venom, the symbiote over his face was only there for 5% of the fight.
Oh, it got to be ridiculous after a while. But yeah, like you said, Ryan Reynolds, to me, he's right up there with the guy Hugo Weaving.
Yeah.
In V for Vendetta. When he went through the whole movie, you never saw his face.
Right.
Now that was the actor that committed to the part when Carl Urban, when he did his Judge Dredd. He kept the helmet off the whole movie.
Right. Compared to Stallone, who kept taking the damn thing off.
Right. But however, to give Stallone his due, I have heard that he didn't want to keep it on for the whole movie, but the studio wouldn't hear of it because the studio said, shit, not for the money that we're paying you.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know.
Well, that was one of the things they were trying to figure out about how are they going to do Iron Man because, he's in the armor. And then Jon Favreau said, I've got it. We're just going to show close-ups of his face inside the armor.
Yeah. Well, okay. Okay, which works because they had all the graphic because we got all the little graphics and everything like that, so we can see how Iron Man is working the suit from the inside and what he's looking at. He's got all, he has the heads up thing that he's looking at all these different, kind of displays and stuff like that. So it enhances, the character.
Yeah.
But I mean, I got to give respect to Ryan Reynolds because, like you said, he goes through most of the movie wearing either the mask or he has on that, burn, kind of makeup, and we only see his real face as he really is in the beginning of the movie, which couldn't be easy because, you have the studio saying, well, we're paying you an awful lot of money for your face. We want to see your face at some time in the movie. But he stuck to his guns and God bless him. That's all I got to say. I only hope, because I know that you're a fan of the character and a lot of people is a fan of the character. I don't know how this is going to work out with him moving over to Disney and stuff like that because they're not too big on the R-rated movies.
Oh, no, they're going to do it. They're going to, because like everyone says that about Disney, but it's kind of a misunderstanding because the Disney logo is more what Disney's concerned about. Like they're not going to release, but none of their Marvel stuff has the Disney logo on it. Like if you
it's just Marvel Studios.
It's just Marvel Studios, and they owned Miramax back when Miramax was making Pulp Fiction and The Crow. So they're also involved in because they owned Marvel Television when Marvel TV was doing the Netflix stuff with Daredevil and Luke Cage. So they can do R-rated stuff, no problem. They can do R-rated Marvel stuff, no problem. And they've said that they're going to keep Deadpool rated R. Now it's when he appears in other movies, that's when he would have toned down to PG-13.
Because, and also a lot of people either don't know or have forgotten, Disney created Touchstone back in the 80s that was strictly for adult, thing. So that was like, their imprint, and they released a lot of R-rated stuff under, the Touchstone also. Yeah.
So, I don't think that we'll have any problems with that. And I think everyone's been trying to think of like convoluted ways to explain how he's in the MCU now. But you know what? It's very simple. You just have him be the only one who knows that he was in this other universe before.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, Deadpool is the perfect character to just easily move into the MCU without any recasting or any reworking or anything like that.
Absolutely not. And like you said, you have him freely make reference to the fact that, well, I was over here, now I'm over here, I got a whole new bunch of X-Men now to deal with, as if it wasn't confusing enough before, yeah.
And that's all you really got to do. Yeah, it'll be easy. It'll be easy enough for Deadpool. I mean, people love to overthink these things.
Oh, absolutely. You know what? This stuff isn't that hard, folks. It really isn't.
And I point to the example of they rebooted James Bond and they kept Judi Dench. Nobody cared. Nobody was wondering if there was some sort of like alternate reality or anything where Judi Dench crossed over. No, nobody cared at all.
Nobody cared at all. And every once in a while, you have people, they want to start up that whole thing about, well, James Bond, that's a code name.
Oh, that is like the dumbest fan theory in the history of dumb fan theories.
I'm glad you agree with me on that because I say the same thing all the time. That is the stupid idea. But yeah,
the only people who believe that theory are the people who clearly haven't watched the Bond movies, because if that's the case, then every single Bond would have to have had his wife killed by Blofeld, because they reference it all the time in each one.
In every one, that's part of the whole mythos of James Bond, that his wife gets killed and stuff like that. And who was it that I was saying? Okay, one of the things that I loved about the last Mad Max movie, right? Okay, Tom Hardy is playing the character now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but the writer-director George Miller never bothers to explain why Mad Max was Mel Gibson and now he's Tom Hardy.
No, and it's the same thing. That's what all movies used to do. I mean, when you had when Val Kilmer took over for Michael Keaton, they referenced Batman Returns and Batman Forever when, Nicole Kidman asks if she needs skin-tight vinyl and a whip, and then Batman just remarks, I haven't had that much luck with women. But that's
right.
But nobody says, oh, how come he looks younger or anything like that? He's Batman now. That's just the way it is. Or when they brought in Don Cheadle to replace Terrence Howard in Iron Man, right? He appears in Iron Man 2 and he's like, "Look, I'm here. I'm here. Let's just get it over with and move on."
Right, exactly. It was something that I don't know when that thing started now that okay, well, we have to explain why it's a different actor that's playing the role now. No, we've had something like 24 different Tarzans, and never once did they stop to explain why, okay, well, he's not Johnny Weissmuller anymore, but now he's Elmo Lincoln, or he's Mike Henry, or he's who, or whoever. That wasn't something that we did. We just put another actor in the role. That's why we've had a dozen different Sherlock Holmes. We just get another guy to play the role. That's all. It's the same character.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
But as you so accurately pointed out, people love to overthink this. And also, my particular bugaboo is that I feel that people just take their entertainment too fucking seriously these days. I'm sorry.
I agree.
They do. People, it's entertainment. It's not, you're not supposed to burn up your brain cells coming up with these convoluted explanations for why this is that. You're supposed to just enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just me. Maybe I'm getting old and cranky.
Now I kind of like how in we're going to be talking about this next month when Crisis finishes, but they have Brandon Routh playing two different characters, and they're just like, wow, he looks a lot like Ray Palmer.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's it. But I do remember way back when they had the first team up and Supergirl first runs into Ray Palmer and she says to him, "Boy, you look a lot like my cousin."
Well, yeah, it was the other way around. He says he's talking about Carol with the other legend. He's like, she reminds me a lot of my cousin. And also,
okay.
And also in that crossover as well, she's kidnapped, right? She's being held prisoner by the Dark Green Arrow, and she says to him, my cousin will come rescue me, and the guy who comes save her is Ray Palmer.
Yeah, and I mean, all they do is just say, "Wow, Superman looks a lot like Ray Palmer," and I mean, that's it. There's no convoluted explanation, anything like that. It's just okay. We mentioned it. Let's go on with the story.
Right. So yeah, and Deadpool it'll be the easiest thing to swap him in. He'll be the one who are making references, and just like you said before, when he made reference about the studio, nobody else knows what he's talking about, and they think he's just insane.
Right, exactly. Yeah, they just say, "Well, listen, that's just Deadpool. He just says shit like that. Don't pay him any attention." Yeah.
And I love the post-credit scene in this movie when they reference Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and he comes out in the exact same getup as Ferris Bueller in that post-credit scene, except with the Deadpool mask on.
And he actually comes out and he tells you, "Oh, by the way, there's going to be a Deadpool 2, and we're going to have Cable in it."
And I love how he says, "All we need is a big guy with a flat top." So he runs down the list of names, and one of them is Keira Knightley.
It's Keira Knightley. He's like, "Oh, she's got range."
After this movie came out, there was a bunch of fan art of Keira Knightley as Cable.
Really?
Yeah, go look up Keira Knightley Cable. You'll find it. It's hilarious.
I gotta look that.
I gotta look that up because okay, that I have to admit that made me laugh when he said Keira Knightley. Oh, she's got range. Don't worry about it. She's got range.
Oh, and he also says that Samuel L. Jackson in a saucy leather number. We don't have the budget for that.
Yeah, we don't have the budget for that.
Also, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was about to say, Fox also must have a pretty good sense of humor considering the number of digs that Ryan Reynolds gets in about. The budget.
Well, I mean, Fox has done that because The Simpsons has been doing that for years. Like they constantly poke fun at Fox. I was because now it's on Disney Plus, and I was rewatching the episode when The Simpsons go to Japan, and it opens with Homer doing online investing, and he says, "I invested in something called News Corp," and Lisa goes, "Dad, that's Fox," and he goes, "Undo."
Oh yeah, they've been doing that for years. The Simpsons has been doing that practically ever since they started. They've been making fun of Fox. They've been getting away with that for years. Mm-hmm. Which reminds me, I have to start my own personal Simpsons marathon because now I've got Disney Plus, and they've got all 30 seasons of The Simpsons.
But you know what I found out from Tobias Christopher, one of the guys in our Facebook group, is if you look at it through the search function, they have it divided into collections too, not only seasons but like themed collections of episodes.
That's one thing I meant to ask you, because I read that and you were saying that they don't have a random function. Well, you want to be able just to watch random episodes?
Yeah, I think that'd be cool because, Simpsons isn't one of those things that you have to watch in order, right? All the episodes are pretty much self-contained.
No, yeah.
So it would be kind of cool to just be able to like randomly watch, play random Simpsons episodes.
Oh, and just be surprised by whatever comes up.
Right.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, because, and there's something, you're actually right, which is why I think that's one reason, because I remember, do you remember Law and Order? It's not like, you're a kid. Okay, Law and Order. The creator of Law and Order, Dick Wolf, because Law and Order just deals with the cases. Mm-hmm. It doesn't deal with the home life of the characters or the romantic life, anything like that. It just deals with them on the job. Dick Wolf said he did that on purpose so that you would be able to just watch the show and it didn't matter what order you watched it in.
Right. Because
since it just deals with just the case, there's no like backstory for you to follow. Mm-hmm. There's no season-long arc. You could just watch Law and Order, which is why I guess they have, marathons of Law and Order that go on for 3 or 4 days. Mm-hmm. Because you can watch them in any order. Well, and The Simpsons, I think that's another reason why it's went on that long. Because, as you said, each episode is pretty much self-contained. You can just watch any order. You can watch any episode in any order. It don't matter.
Right. And they've referenced that several times, too, where I remember there was one episode where a judge decreed that all the events of this episode nobody will ever speak of again.
Which one was that?
It was the one where it was revealed that Principal Skinner wasn't really Seymour Skinner. He had just taken the guy's identity. And then it ended with the judge saying, "You are now legally Seymour Skinner, and no one will ever mention these events again."
Yeah, that's the episode everybody hates. The one
really?
Where, yeah. If I remember the events of that episode correct, the original Seymour Skinner died in Vietnam or something like that, and this guy took his identity.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, nobody liked that idea.
Okay.
Nobody liked that, which is why they said we'll never talk of this again. Because even the creators of The Simpsons, when they said that in retrospect, they said that notion was a bad idea.
Mm-hmm. I like that bit at the end, though, where they just said, no one's ever going to mention this stuff again.
Yeah. But, ever since I got Disney Plus, I said, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to have a Simpsons marathon. I'm just going to pig out on The Simpsons.
Yeah, I'm going to get around to that, too.
A lot of those episodes I haven't seen like in years, especially from the early years. I haven't seen a lot of those episodes. The only one that they don't have, though, I heard that they don't have the Michael Jackson episode.
Oh, really?
But they could. Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard that they don't have that.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
The whole
right.
recent thing, with the Leaving Neverland.
Mm-hmm.
And the renewed, charges of him being a pedophile and stuff like that. Yeah, Disney removed that episode, which is a shame because, it's Michael Jackson. But
there's also something else that was edited out, and people thought it was Disney that had edited it, but it was actually done before Disney got the rights. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something that someone was talking about on Facebook. Well, yeah, okay, that's interesting. I just looked it up, and it looks like you're right. That one's not on there.
I know, because that was a big deal. I heard about it, and people were, complaining, because of course, the first thing that people started screaming about, censorship. Well, listen, it's not censorship. They bought the rights to The Simpsons, so they can do whatever they want. Matter of fact, they don't even have to show it if they don't want to. They bought the rights to it.
I'm actually kind of surprised they put all the Simpsons stuff on Disney Plus right away. I would have thought they might have alternated out or something like that. So, but yeah, they just threw them all up there.
Yeah, they threw all 30. I said, what? Because I'm like you. I figured they put a couple up there, and then they swap them out.
Right,
but they
other
would
than,
gradually,
with the exception of on Hulu. Fox would only put the current season or something on Hulu. But everything else, you could only buy it. They didn't have it streaming anywhere.
Right. But listen, it served its purpose because it got me to buy Disney. I mean, between that and The Mandalorian, I said, okay, I'm down. Here's my money.
Yeah. As soon as my proxy service sent me an email saying that we now support Disney Plus, I went right over to the website and signed up right away.
Yeah. I signed up 2 or 3 months before the thing launched. I went and I said, yeah, I'm signing up.
So I watched all of The Mandalorian, and I also rewatched Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes, which is one of the best Marvel animated shows ever made.
And actually, I'm looking forward because one thing I've never seen, which everybody always talks about, is the X-Men animated series.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
I've never watched it, but they've got it. I watched The Silver Surfer the other day. The animated Silver Surfer from the late 90s. It was 1996, 1997.
Right.
And I watched it. I haven't seen it. Since then, I had forgotten how weird the artwork looks, but it was an early mix of computer generated animation and traditional hand painted.
Right, and very heavily Kirby influenced, if I remember.
Yeah, yeah. But I had forgotten how, and it's very entertaining. I've forgotten how entertaining it was. I said, oh wow! I said they got Silver Surfer. I said I haven't seen this in.
Yeah, I remember when that was announced, and at first I was kind of confused. I'm like, well, why are they doing Silver Surfer, especially if they can't do anything with the Fantastic Four or any of that stuff? And then, I started watching it week after week, and I'm like, and it was oddly compelling. It was pretty good. I didn't understand why but I'd never been a Surfers fan, but that was basically my first real exposure to the character.
But I was wondering because I said, well, the Surfer, he's not a fighter. He's a pacifist. He's the type of guy that you have to really get him pissed off before he wants to fight you. I was wondering how they were going to do it. And I was surprised that how they have a lot of episodes where it's just the Surfer flying through space doing his soliloquies.
Yeah.
They do a lot of that, which kind of surprised me. And
which is probably why it only lasted one season.
Yeah, probably why. And we had discussed this on Facebook because I'd always wondered why when the Silver Surfer stopped being the herald of Galactus just simply didn't take his power cosmic back.
Right.
And say, well, but in the animated cartoon, they actually do explain it. That Galactus says, well, I'm going to let you keep the power because you were hated and feared throughout the universe as being my herald. Now, if I take the power back, you can just go on and live your life as a normal person and be happy. He said, I don't want you to be happy.
Right.
You stay being the Silver Surfer. You keep on being hated and feared. And I said, oh, okay. I said, now that makes sense.
Exactly, yeah. I always just assumed it was something that he could give but he couldn't take back. But that explanation works much better, I think.
Right, yeah, because one of my friends had said to me, "Well, if he takes the power cosmic back, that'll kill him." I said, "Yeah, but he's Galactus. He's murdered billions of people. Why would he care about killing one more?"
Right. Yeah.
That doesn't make sense, you know. But this explanation, which, like I said, and for you people out there listening to this, if you've got Disney Plus, I highly recommend the Silver Surfer animated series because it's surprisingly literate, and it's very true to the spirit of the Silver Surfer as a character. You know.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch that because when did that come out anyway?
It was like 90. It was in the late 90s. It was like 90. I want to say 97, 98. Okay. Somewhere like that. But it's got Thanos. It's got Adam Warlock. It's got
1998. Yeah, so that was my first year in high school. So, I should give that another look now. See how
it's got Drax Destroyer. It's got Thanos. It's got Galactus. It's
Beta
got
Ray
Kree,
Bill. I remember was on it too.
Who?
Beta Ray Bill.
Yeah, Beta Ray Bill. Yeah. It only lasted one season, but folks, listen, it comes with my recommendation. If my recommendation means anything to you at all, then by all means, check out the Silver Surfer on Disney Plus.
Something else you should check out. I'm not sure if it's on there or not, but there was another Wolf. There have been a few different X-Men animated series. So there was the one in the early '90s that is the most fondly remembered one. There was.
I think that's the one. I think that's the one that I want to watch. That's what everybody is always talking about.
Yeah, there was that was a good one. There was X-Men Evolution, which was okay, and that was like reimagining them as teenagers type of thing. But then there was another one they came out with a few years ago called Wolverine and the X-Men, and that was amazing. That was really good.
Oh, okay.
And they had actual comic book writers writing that series, like Craig Kyle and Chris Yost, who have done a bunch of the Marvel comics. They wrote, I think, Thor Ragnarok or Thor: The Dark World, or one of the Thor movies they wrote. And they were the showrunners on Wolverine and the X-Men. And it was only one season, but it was amazing.
Okay, because I did notice at Disney Plus they have all three of those that you just mentioned. Mm-hmm. The X-Men, X-Men Evolution, and Wolverine and the X-Men. And if anybody who works for Disney Plus is listening to this, you owe us money.
Yes, please. And Comixology as well, for that matter.
Oh, yeah. So we ought to hit them guys up. So listen, we're sending a lot of business your way.
Exactly. All right. So do you have any last thoughts about Deadpool?
Okay. As before, and let me reiterate that I appreciate you recommending this movie because I was able to watch it again. And like I said, watch it with a fresh set of eyes and a renewed consciousness. And I was able to find levels in this movie that I did not appreciate before. Do I still now? By no means does this make me a Deadpool fan,
right?
But however, this is a very well made movie. Wonderful cast, and it's worth your time. It is. Mm-hmm. If you have, I'm sure that most of the people listening to this, they've seen Deadpool, but on the off chance that you haven't seen it, it's worth your time. It's an entertaining movie. You know, if you were looking for something on a Friday, Saturday night, absolutely nothing wrong with this. I recommend this highly.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, even if you're not a Deadpool fan, the movie in general is just extremely watchable. Like, there are those movies that they're not amazing, but they're just, you can put them on in the background while you're doing something else and it's fine. Like that, I think this movie could be that way for people who aren't really Deadpool fans. Just like another movie that I think is very much just a really watchable movie is The Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
It's just a movie that you can just put on in the background while you're doing something else.
This is the one with
Edward Norton.
We're not talking about the Ang Lee one.
No. The Ed Norton one.
Ed Norton. Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, this would be a good double feature. Deadpool and the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
It would be a good double feature.
Okay. So we're at the end of the year now. Any things you want to mention about 2019 and superhero movies and media?
Okay. In 2019, we saw the culmination of an entire decade of Marvel superhero movies, a feat that is totally unprecedented in motion picture history, as far as I know. And all I can say is that I am glad I lived long enough to see this era of superhero movies, because I don't care what people say. I'm not interested in what they say. All I know is that these are the movies. Avengers Endgame was the movie I've been wanting to see ever since I was 12 years old. And I got to see it. A lot of people can't say that. I got to see, matter of fact, I've got to see all the I got to see Black Panther, a movie that you and I, you know how long I've been saying that they'll never make a Black Panther movie. And they made a Black Panther movie. And it was like,
you owe like everybody in the universe $10 for all the times you've betted that they will never make a Black Panther movie.
Everybody, I owe a lot of money to people. Let me put it that way. I owe a lot of money because I bet everybody $10 that I got to see a Thor movie. I got to see 3 Thor movies. I got to see 3 Avengers movies. I mean,
4 Avengers movies.
4, yeah. I mean, when I sat there and saw Avengers Endgame, it was like, forget about it. Just like blew me away. So I don't know what's going to come in the future, but I do know what we've had. And that alone is amazing. The feat that they pulled off. Okay. If you had told me at the start of the decade that we would see all the superhero movies that we have seen, I'm not just talking about the Marvel ones. I'm talking about DC too. Because DC, they've had a couple of clunkers. But hey, let's face it. Even their clunkers, at least to me, wasn't that bad. I like Suicide Squad. I love Wonder Woman. I like Justice League. I did. Is it a seriously flawed movie? Well, yes, it is. But hey, where else can you see Superman, Batman, and Aquaman and Wonder Woman and the Flash all together on screen?
In live action.
I mean, yeah, live action. It's just been an amazing ride as far as superhero movies go. And seeing the evolution of superhero movies from when I was a kid back in the 70s and growing up and watching them on animation and the Batman TV series and the Wonder Woman TV series. You know, I've seen an evolution, man. I have. I've seen evolution. And I guess that's why I feel the way I do, and I'm not jaded, because I know how it started. I saw it back then.
Right.
I saw the original Flash TV series, so I know how far we've come from that day until the days that we have now. I've seen how far we've come, and I appreciate how far we've come, and I'm just sitting back and I'm loving it. And I'm sorry now. You got people out there that want to dissect, like you said, they want to pull apart these movies like it's a chicken wing, and they want to disparage them, and they want to beat on them. And you know what? You go right ahead. If you want to be miserable, you go right ahead to be miserable, because I don't understand people that claim to love the art form and the genre so much, but it seems like every superhero movie that comes out, they can't wait to pounce on it and rip it to shreds. If that's what gives you joy, I honestly feel sorry for you. I do.
Yeah.
If that's what gives you joy, ripping apart the creative work of so many people and these characters that have lasted so long through so many mediums and have given so much joy to people, but you can't find any joy in it, you need help.
Yeah. A lot of stuff I agree with you in there. I mean, it's weird when I think about it, because I've been in Japan for about a decade now. So I came here right after the first Iron Man movie came out. That's when I first came here. And just watching all this happen, it's been unreal seeing this all happen, just imagining all the changes in my life that kind of went along with this journey of these superhero movies. And it's weird, but I can now mark a lot of these key moments in my adult life by these superhero movies, by these MCU films. And
and I'm sure Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people that can. I mean, they'll point at and they will remember, certain points in their life because they say, okay, yeah, because I know that was the year that Iron Man came out, or that was the year Thor came. Yeah.
Well, I remember one of the last movies I watched with my dad about a year before he died was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. We went to see that in the theater, and it's very kind of poignant because that is such a movie about fathers and sons. So that
fathers and sons, yeah.
So that was a really big thing for me, having to be able to see that movie with him in the theater.
Yeah, because I remember when I went to see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume. It's funny that you mentioned that. When I saw that movie, I was in South Carolina because my father was in the hospital. He was dying, and I went with my sister and my nephew, and we were going back and forth to the hospital to see him, and just to kind of like lighten our mood and get our minds off of stuff. We went to the movies, and that's what we saw, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And like you said, it affected me too because that was the theme of it, fathers and sons. And I remember that I was deeply moved by that movie. Because of what I was going through.
Same here. Yeah. And and just all building up to Endgame. I mean, you could see you could tell if you ask my girlfriend, she'll tell you in the moments leading up, when the portals were all opening up and the moments leading up to it, I was sitting there in the theater whispering, say it, say it, say it, say it, say it. And then he says Avengers Assemble, and I just freaked out.
Oh man, please. I mean, we've been waiting for that.
Yes.
Since and finally. Yeah. I said, come on, man. Now's the time. If you're ever going to say it, Cap, you got to say it now. And Avengers Assemble.
Yeah,
I said,
and because we got it in that moment, I forgive Whedon for cutting out at the end of Age of Ultron before he said it. Because getting it in that moment was perfect.
And when he said that, the theater went berserk.
Yeah.
It went absolutely berserk because we've been waiting for this for so long. And that was and like you said, I forgive him for cutting it in that earlier moment because, see, if there was a moment for him to say it, that was it.
Yeah. And I do remember, it's so weird to see how it's happened because, I grew up with comics in the 90s when the X-Men were the biggest thing around and nobody cared about the Avengers. And now to see this complete reversal where everybody cares about the Avengers is incredible. Especially when I remember back when I was in high school, college, me and a buddy who were both big comic book fans, we talked about, comic book movies because this was when X-Men was coming out, Spider-Man, and we were saying they'd never be able to make an Avengers movie. Because the rights are owned by all these different studios, it's impossible to ever do it.
Yeah.
And then look at what we've gotten. The Avengers has been the pinnacle of superhero cinema now because of that.
And also, what the MCU was able to do, it was able to do something that comics has never been able to do. It gave us a satisfying conclusion to the story of a lot of these characters.
Yeah.
It gave us a satisfying conclusion for Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. Now, Thor, I highly suspect that we're going to see him in the next Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
He's got his own movie coming out. They've already announced a fourth Thor movie.
Oh, okay. Well, cool. Listen. I love Thor. They keep making Thor movies as long as Hemsworth, as long as he want to keep making them, fine.
Well, because he was getting kind of down on the role because he felt like it wasn't. He felt like it was becoming kind of stale. And when he talked to Kevin Feige about it, Feige's like, okay, well, let's change it up. And then they did Thor Ragnarok. And now he's like, you know what? I'll keep playing the character this way for as long as I can.
Yeah, because even as much of a Thor fan as I am, I love the way that the Thor character has transformed more than any other MCU character. Because the Thor that we got by Thor Ragnarok was not the Thor we started out with.
No, not at all.
I mean, this is a character that has been totally taken apart and put back together. And he's a completely different character now, which to me is fast. And you can take him in any kind of direction that you want now because he no longer has any ties to anything that he once was. There's no more Asgard. He doesn't have the hammer anymore, does he? He doesn't have the hammer anymore, right? Or does he still have it?
Cap took it back at the end of Endgame.
Yeah, Cap took it back. That's right. Yeah, Cap took it back. I mean, but if we never saw Thor again, his story has a satisfying conclusion.
Right.
Captain America's story had a satisfying conclusion. Tony Stark's story had a satisfying conclusion. And also it's not like these characters can't ever come back.
Right.
Even Iron Man. I mean, you can do a flashback movie.
Well, even he's already going to have. They've got some deleted footage from Civil War that they're going to use in Black Widow next year, which is going to have Tony Stark in it.
See?
And also, you could also do a thing where, because in the comics, Tony Stark has died like a dozen times. The most recent time he died, he was brought back as artificial intelligence. So you could easily do something like that.
Yeah. I mean, but if we never see these characters again, it's okay with me.
Right.
Because we've seen their stories. We've seen them up against, overwhelming odds, and they defeated it. We got the Winter Soldier, which as far as I'm concerned, they had ended it then. I didn't need to see no more Captain America movies after the Winter Soldier. That's how good that was.
Yeah. And we're getting more because we're getting Falcon and Winter Soldier next year.
We're getting there. Disney. Well, like I said, a lot of these characters, I suspect a lot of these characters that we've seen in the movies, they're just going to shift them over to Disney Plus and shift them over to their own TV series.
Yeah. It's going to be really interesting to see how things move going forward.
And then
it's also kind of because we have no roadmap anymore, really. Before we had a roadmap. We know all roads led to Thanos. Now it's just completely wide open territory.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's going to be really interesting to see where we go from here. Go ahead.
No, well, I don't know. They could go because now that we've introduced Captain Marvel, we could go into the Kree Skrull War.
That's what I'm thinking too. I think that would be my pick. I'd say go for Kree Skrull War next. Build up to that. We'll see if they do.
Or Galactus.
Galactus. Now they got the FF rights. Yeah.
Or do Galactus. Yeah.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where things go from here, especially when they decide to bring in the Fantastic Four and the X-Men. One other thing I want to mention about this past year is, not only did we get the movie we never thought we were going to get with Avengers Endgame, but we also got the TV show we never thought we were going to get, which proved that it is possible to do a sequel to Watchmen and have it be satisfying on every level.
Oh my God, Watchmen. Watchmen was like, when people ask me what is my favorite TV show of this year, and I did a list of my favorite 10 TV shows, and The Mandalorian and The Watchmen was on it. If you catch me on one day, I may say The Mandalorian. If you catch me on another day, I may say Watchmen. But yeah, Watchmen was so good on so many levels. I don't want to. Okay. They don't have a second season. As far as I know, they have not announced that there's going to be a second season.
No,
I don't want to see a second season. I don't. If they do another Watchmen story, it should be a brand new story about some other characters in that universe.
You know what? I would be interested. And now that Ozymandias is going to jail, Night Owl is also in jail, and we haven't seen him yet.
Right.
So I would be interested in seeing the two of them in jail together. In fact, you could cross it over with another HBO series and have put them in Oz.
Yeah, I would want to see what happened to Night Owl because, yeah, like you said, the only hint that we got from Night Owl was the owl that Lori had.
Mm-hmm.
She had an owl as a pet.
Right, and we know from the Peteypedia files that he's in prison.
Yeah, he is in prison. So it would be, matter of fact, they could even do that. They could do the trial of Ozymandias.
Yeah. In fact, they said, someone posted this on Twitter, and I thought it was a perfect casting choice. But Bruce Boxleitner from Tron as old Dan Dryberg.
I can see that.
I mean, I think that would be perfect. I mean, I'm looking at pictures of him from Tron Legacy. He looks pretty much like what you'd expect old Dan Dryberg to look like.
Especially when you go back to the comic book, and if you look in the comic book, he has his hair parted in the middle, just like Bruce Boxleitner wears all the time.
Right.
That's how he wears his hair, parted in the middle. Yeah.
So yeah, that. If they, I mean, you know what? Go back and do some other stories. Like, honestly, at this point, I would trust Damon Lindelof to just adapt the original graphic novel.
Well, that's what you said when we recorded our last episode. You said you'd like to see him go back and just do the original one.
Yeah, or some other story set between the two. Like, I think if anyone can do it, I think Lindelof has proven that he can.
Yeah. But you know what? I'm always a person that I say, you know what? I'd rather see him go out on top than come back and try to do it again and say, okay, well, let me. Because you know why? This season of Watchmen, this show set the bar so impossibly high. I don't see how he could top it.
Yeah, you know I feel the same way. Like, it was so amazing, and part of me would love to see a second season, but part of me is also like, I really don't know.
If they're going to do another season of Watchmen, and because remember what happened with True Detective? Mm-hmm. Remember that first season with Woody Harrelson and? Well,
I haven't been able to watch it, so I never watched True Detective.
You haven't seen True Detective?
No, but I've heard a lot of people say that like the first season was incredible, and then the second season it went to pot.
Right, exactly, because that first season, the bar was set so incredibly high that there was no way that they could match it with the second season. I mean, they simply couldn't. But that's not to say that the second season was bad. Mm-hmm. This is what it was. And I always use the example of the Godfather. People always rag on the Godfather 3. Mm-hmm. But the only thing wrong with the Godfather 3 was that it had to follow Godfather 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And there was no way it could be as good as Godfather 1 and 2.
Especially because the story that they'd been building up to, they couldn't do. Because they couldn't do the Tom Hagen versus Michael Corleone war that they were building up towards.
Right, exactly. So there was no way. So that was the only problem with True Detective Season 2. If it had been the first season, everybody would have been talking how brilliant it was, how good it was. But they couldn't because we already had that first season. That first season was so good. I think that Watchmen would be the same way. If they did a second season, everybody would just automatically say, well, it's not as good as the first season.
Yeah, I think you're right.
They would just say that. Mm-hmm. If they do a second season, I would say don't put that much pressure on Lindelof. Give it to somebody else.
Well, Lindelof himself, he said, like, if I don't have the idea for it, I'm not going to do it. He's like, someone else can do it, but it's not going to be me.
Right, yeah. Let somebody, I mean, I don't know. I believe in going out on a high note.
And I've also got no problem if they take a few years. If, like, say they do decide to do a second season, but they say, like, but we have to wait a few years to do it right. That's fine. Take all the time you need.
Listen, that's fine with me. Take 2 or 3 years, because I've always said that about franchises such as, say, Star Trek. Mm-hmm. One thing, and much as I love Star Trek, but my thing has always been this: how can I miss you if you won't go away?
Right.
They keep cranking out one Star Trek series after another, one movie after another. There's nothing wrong with letting it rest for 4 or 5 years and rethink it. Like, what's this other friend? James Bond. Mm-hmm. I think that once Daniel Craig has done this last movie he did, thank God, take 4 or 5 years and rethink the franchise and what you want to do with it. Because the problem now is that James Bond is no longer the gold standard when it comes to action adventure movies.
Right.
That it once was. When you have franchises like, The Fast and the Furious and Mission Impossible that are better James Bond movies than the actual James Bond movies, well, that's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so our next episode will be our 10th episode and the first episode of the new year. Now, I know we talked about doing Crisis and Watchmen, but Watchmen, I think we agreed we'll have to split up into a few episodes anyway, and Crisis wouldn't be coming up until after our first episode of the new year. So I've got here's what I propose. All right, and well, we could do the same what we've been doing before, where you pick the next movie, or we could take a break from that format, and because we had talked about doing a politics and superheroes episode.
So you want to do that?
Well, I'm asking you, what would you prefer? Do you want to do the politics and superheroes episode, or do you want to just do another movie before we go into Crisis and Watchmen?
Well, okay. The only reason why I don't want to do that politics right now, because that's kind of like, I kind of suspect that's going to be a heavy episode.
Okay.
Where we're going to get into some deep waters, and I would like our first episode of the new year to start off with a very optimistic note.
Okay.
And with a very optimistic superhero.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I propose that we start off with I can think of no more optimistic superhero than Captain America.
Okay, sounds good. So are you thinking the first Avenger then, or another one of the movies?
Yeah, Captain America, the first Avenger.
All right, sounds good. So we'll do Captain America, first Avenger.
Yeah. Now, there were the Captain America movies that were done back in the 1970s.
Right,
but
and the other one in the early 1990 too.
Yeah, I want to say that. Yeah, I want to save that for another time. But I figured that, okay, we start off with a brand new year, start off with a very optimistic, upbeat superhero, nothing dark, start off. And like I said, when I think of optimism, I think of Captain America.
All right, that's a good pick. Yeah, I like that idea. Okay, so
we'll do Captain America, the first Avenger.
That's right. All right, so that's all from us. Hope you guys had a great year, and wish you all the best in the coming new year. And we'll talk to you again in 2020.
I want to thank all of you for listening to us so far. I appreciate, everything that, all the feedback that we've heard, personally and in our Facebook group. Thank you for your support. Happy New Year. God bless. And we will see you in 2020.
That's right. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Superhero Cinephiles podcast. If you have any questions or comments about this or any other episode, or if you have a superhero movie or TV show you'd like us to cover in a future episode, you can email us at superherocinephiles@gmail.com, or you can also visit us on the web at superherocinephiles.com. If you like what you hear, leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. Each review helps us reach more potential listeners. You can also support the show by renting or purchasing the movies discussed, or by picking up our books, all of which can be accessed through the website, as well as find links to our social media presences. The theme music for this show is a shortened version of Superhero Showdown, a royalty-free piece of music courtesy of FezleonStudios.com.